All right, hey, I just wanted to check in because I finished another book, NFL Century by Joe Horrigan. Uh, this is obviously a look back on the NFL. It covers the last 100 years. It actually was written in 2019, and so it was the last 100 years prior. This isn't going to be interesting to anybody that doesn't care about the NFL, I'll be honest with you. I found it extremely interesting, and I just want to talk about some of the little things that I learned about the history of the NFL, and just why you, if you're interested in the NFL, why you might be interested in this. Now, the way that I picked this book up actually was from an Audible sale. So the entire way that I read this book, right, was through audio, and I ordered the physical copy. It was $6 on Thrift Books for this hardcover. I got like a cool, this is my first book from a library. I don't know if that, so that is super cool. It's some library out of Texas. My first book from a library, which I'm pumped about actually, because this is like the perfect book to be from a library. Yeah, so getting into Joe Horrigan, for those of you who don't know, he was a historian for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Let me see if this, oh, too harsh. Oh God, I have not been able to get my lighting right. He actually retired, I think, right before he wrote this book, and this just covers, like I said, the 100 years prior. It starts with how the NFL was starting to try to get its start in the like 1900s to the late 1800s, actually, to the 1900s, and it's so interesting. They were battling the colleges because the colleges didn't want their players stolen from them, and they were telling players they weren't allowed to play in the NFL after they go out. This is a college-only game. This isn't a professional thing. Super weird now to think that was the thing back then, but it was, and obviously that changed over time. And it talks about their the way that they had to work with these colleges and figure out rules, and they had to establish rules on when they're allowed to like approach the players in the first place. There we go. Oh baby, I feel like I've been fighting my camera this whole time. He talks about when Pearl Harbor happened, like when it was going on. Players during a game were getting called on the intercom off the field. They were getting drafted to go fight in the war. And that is absolutely crazy that that they were just picking them off the field. Like if you think about that now, that would not be how that was taken care of these days. So it's just crazy that was how it went down back then. Joe Horrigan talks about the kind of fight that the NFL had with the AFL, and the two leagues really competing against each other. And they eventually, obviously combined. They merged in, I think it was the late 50s. And that kind of has been the start of what the NFL really is today. Was when, in my opinion, was when that merger happened, because that brought all the teams together. And of course there was the spring leagues, and he talks about the spring leagues actually in here. And one thing I learned that I had no idea was that Herschel Walker, who, if you don't know, is he was an old Georgia player, UGA player, and he was really, really big at the time, hugely influential college player. He decided to go into the spring league and made it a big deal for that season, which I think is really cool, before he ended up going into the NFL, and then trying to run for some sort of government position here in Georgia, which didn't go well for him. In my opinion, thankfully, that dude got hit in the head too much to be running for any sort of office, but that's beside the point. One other cool thing that I learned was that the first black quarterback to take a snap at the start of a season, his name was Shaq Harris, and he actually played for the Bills, which I thought was really cool. There's some other little like stories in here, and some player accounts of some different little events that happened throughout the years. He talks about during 9/11 The Giants kind of becoming America's team for that little season. Didn't really go well for him in the end, but it's cool to just see all of these big events that we know in history and see how it was affecting everything else too. Because like obviously you think about it affecting everybody's day-to-day lives and on a grander scale, real lives. But it's just interesting after everything kind of calms down to see, okay, what did it actually affect everywhere else, and how did that change the nature of the NFL? How did it change the nature of whatever? So very interesting to read about. There were some other rule changes that I didn't know about, like over the years. One of the early rules was that the quarterback had to be 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and able to make a forward pass, which I think is just crazy. I think they changed that pretty quick, if I remember right. And then another cool change that I had no idea was the case was that if they used to get the ball out of bounds in any way, I think if like a player ran out or whatever, they would start 5 yards in off of the 5 to 10 yard. I can't remember. It was a small distance off of the sideline. I couldn't think of the word for a second. They used to start between 5 to 10 yards off of the sideline. And they used to have to take one snap pretty much was dedicated to just trying to center the ball in the field, just so that they can try to make their plays and make it real runs down the field, which is just, that's crazy. There was a lot of little rule changes, obviously, that happened over the years, and now things have become safer for the players, technically, even though I feel like this last season we had the most injuries probably ever. But I don't know if that's true. He goes over the Brady era and Deflategate, and it kind of just catches up all the way until the modern time at the time, which was now 6 years ago. And a lot has actually changed since then too, which is crazy, like the new kickoff this last year. But anyways, if you stuck around this long in the video, I do appreciate it. I know I was just kind of ranting and it was a little bit all over the place. I do really enjoy this book. It was very interesting. When I picked up this physical copy, I realized there's actually pictures in here, which I ended up going through and looking at all of those too. And there's a couple sections that have some pictures, and really cool. If you're into the NFL at all, I do highly recommend this. It's written very well. It's written by a guy who's qualified to be writing this kind of thing, and it's told in a way that isn't like, it doesn't make you feel like you're stupid, if that makes you feel, you know. But anyways, I appreciate y'all for sticking around this long, and thanks.